Hey everyone, it is Kevin Henry, the editor-in-chief for Dr. Bicuspid, and welcome back to another episode of the drbicuspid.com podcast. If you've been listening to the podcast by now, you know that we love to do these short episodes where we focus on one article and talk to the author about that article. And that's what we're doing today with our friend Kim McCleskey. Hey Kim, how are you?
Hey, Kevin, I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I am good. I get to hang out with you for a few minutes, which is always a
I know.
good thing.
I
So
know. I
no,
know. I feel like we could carry on for probably an hour here.
we could, and so condensing it down may be our biggest trick of the day here. But Kim wrote a great
Maybe.
article for us that we published recently on drbicuspid.com. We will put the link in the show notes. But it is about 4 key financial considerations when selling to a DSO. And Kim, one of the things that you mentioned in this article, and you've mentioned in past articles, is this whole consolidation wave that is happening right now in
hmm
the industry, and why that we may be seeing the end of that consolidation wave coming up real
hmm
soon. So timing's maybe of the essence for some of these dental practices, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it definitely is. I mean, I think if you're interested in learning about what's happening in consolidation right now, I mean, there's plenty of opinions out there. It is my opinion and the folks here at PTS that we're halfway through the consolidation wave, if you will. Um, they're expected to sort of come closer to the end is around 70% consolidated. So if we're halfway there, we're thinking probably another 5 years or so, and we're going to start to see valuations change, right, as we get towards the end of that. What the opportunity for financial outcomes, they're just going to look different the further down the road we get towards consolidation.
And that's why I love the timing of this article, because you have that end in sight and you're kind of helping our readers understand what they need to know if they're thinking about, and maybe when they're thinking about selling to a DSO. So let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
2 of the 4 financial considerations that you mentioned in the article, which again, we'll link in the show notes. But let's talk about the cash at close. And I know that this
Mm-hmm.
is something that is kind of, you start talking about the cash that you've got to bring. I know that makes the pulse race a little more in some people. So,
Mm-hmm.
so what's a big thing that
Mm-hmm.
you want people to know about that?
Yeah, I think, depending on where you are with your end goals, whether you're looking to partner with a JV, kind of group, a joint venture model, or whether you're looking for more of just a straight buyout, but willing to stay back and work for the group for, the 3 to 5 years, the typical. Um, I guess cash at close is going to be affected vastly different with those two options, right? So, depending on what your goal is, what do you need? If you want to still have some equity, then you're going to probably want to look at a JV model. And there's a lot of those to consider out there that are doing some really great work. You're going to retain some equity, you're going to get distributions on that profit, and if that fits where you are in your career right now, that then I think that's something to consider. There's a lot of benefit with those, and you have a lot of skin in the game, right? You're vested in
Yeah.
that. If you're on the tail end of your career and you just are ready to kind of cash out, then there's options for that as well. Yeah, you would just get your cash at close, and then if you're going to stay on longer, um, then that opens up other options.
And again, we're going to make sure that Kim mentions PTS, talks about that at the very end so that you've got a place to go to examine those options. All right, so let's jump ahead in the article here. And the last one of the points that you talked about was growth and bonuses. And I love that
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned bonuses, because I think that can be such a contentious topic sometimes whenever it comes to today's dental practices and what to do with their team members. But
Mm-hmm.
what does it mean bonus wise whenever you're talking about the potential of selling to a DSO?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misconceptions, and I mean, I had misconceptions about what those deal structures looks like, right? Like I didn't understand it either, and I think that most dentists that I come in contact with will say to me, well, they expect me to grow the practice and work harder. And I say, they will grow the practice. They don't necessarily expect you to grow the practice. It's their job to grow the practice, right? But if you do participate in that, there's going to be notes. We call them notes. A lot of the DSOs call them notes, growth notes attached to the deal. So what that looks like is, if you increase, your production by, 50,000, 100,000 a year, with our help, then there's going to be a bonus attached to that for you. And so those are structured on on a yearly basis for as long as they're staying on. But I think the misconception is, if I sell to a DSO, I have to be the one to grow it. And that's just not the case. You don't. They bring in other providers, they bring in other hygienists, they bring in, other ways to grow the practice, and then you benefit from it.
And I think that's one thing that I keep reading in your articles and others that are on Doctor by Cuspid about the DSO is the fact that the sale to a DSO or partnering with a DSO, or however you want to phrase it, it's supposed to take a lot of that weight off of the practitioner's shoulder and maybe open up that new thing. And I think sometimes, just because, again, it's something that they haven't done yet, or there's been so many misconceptions out there, that they still don't understand that that's such a reality whenever this transition happens.
Yeah. I think it's really important for, our dentists who are considering a transition to explore all of their options and learn about these things and hear firsthand how a particular group, how they handle these kind of things and how they structure the deals, and just to get an education, I think is so valuable to understand your options and then choose the right one for you.
Well, and I know that's, Kim, that's what you do so much. That's what PTS does so much. So make sure our audience knows more about what PTS actually is and where they can get a hold of you.
Yes, you can reach me at kim@professionaltransition.com. You can find me on our website at professionaltransition.com or on LinkedIn.
There you go. And again, we'll have all that in the show notes, as well as the link to Kim's article. Kim has written a plethora, dare I say, of articles for Dr. Bicuspid whenever it comes to the DSO, and I always appreciate her having her finger on the pulse of what's going on in that market. So, Kim, as always, my friend, great to hang out with you. I appreciate the time.
So great to see you. Take care, Kevin.
And thanks to all of you for listening to this episode of the Dr. B Podcast. Hey, make sure you subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts so you get the latest episodes first. And until next time, Kevin Henry, the editor-in-chief for Dr. Bicuspid, signing off. Wishing you nothing but success ahead.